And Marvin, you can start. You don't have a quorum.
All right. I will call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. First, I'd like to welcome Jeff as our full-time commissioner now. He stepped up from being an alternate. I'd also like to, if she were here, I would tell her I'm going to miss Khaki. Khaki was a great commissioner, and I want to thank her for her service. And tell her I hope she'll come back someday when her job gets a little bit more relaxed. I think one thing we've got here, we've got the minutes to approve from the prior meeting. And there's one note that Catherine Wexler asked us to make, which isn't really an error, but she just wanted us to note it. So in the minutes for November 1st, under public hearing, it mentions the number of lots. There were actually, it mentioned, it says 35 lots, and the count was actually 30. Ultimately, it was 35 in the proposal, but what we approved was the development plan, which was only 30. And that's what the council approved, is only 30. So she just wanted to point out that 35 was not what ultimately ended up. I don't know that that changes the minutes, but
I don't believe it does, because this, what you had in the packet, that was what was advertised. And, you know, when you continue public hearings, you stay with your advertised, even though the project may change.
yeah, I consider it kind of a clarification,
Yeah.
just make sure everybody's on the same page. So with that observation, I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion?
Second,
Second.
I guess we're all in favor, so approved. All right, so we have a period here for public input. Is there any public input on any subject not on the agenda tonight? Something that people want to see on a future agenda, or perhaps complain about past agenda, or any of that of us? Okay, hearing none, we'll close that portion of public input. What I've decided to do tonight is to have 3 public inputs. One was to open to the public. The second one is on the item number 1. We'll have a public hearing, public input on that if anyone has any. And after we're done with that topic, we'll move on to the second topic, and we'll have a separate public hearing on that. Just keep it separate. So I guess we have a concept plan. Our first item on the agenda is approving a concept plan for 940 Ranch Road, Copper Canyon, Texas, legally described as Canyon Ranch Estates Block P, Lot 6, Copper Canyon, Texas, which includes a roof pitch shallower than current zoning requirements, as noted in the advanced materials, that we do have under our ordinances, we do have the ability to approve shallower roof pitches based on a concept plan or a development plan. We have them here. Would you? I don't think we need a presentation on it, actually, since
we're here to talk about it.
You're here to talk about it.
I'm the architect. We have a builder here as well. So if there are any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I only had one.
Sure.
I assume this is a chimney, not
There's a chimney right in the middle.
air kind unit or.
No, that's a chimney. Yeah, there's a one kind of right in the middle of the house.
Right.
Yeah, it just sticks up a couple feet above the roof.
I thought so.
But no, the roof would be nice and clean.
That was the only question I had.
There's nothing on the roof.
Just for your history, years ago, somebody came in with a flat roof, they wanted to put air conditioning units on it, and there was always talking about parapets and,
Oh, no.
yeah, so anyways, that's what we're getting these
We have
questions.
other places. We also have 6 acres.
So just for the record, I will ask if there's any public input on this particular proposal. Hearing none, I think we can move to a vote. I would entertain a motion here to approve this exception.
I'll recommend.
One second.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay, second, say, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. That moves that one on. Our second agenda item is amending the zoning ordinance of the town of Copperton, Texas. You can go if you like, or stay and argue on that.
I know there's a council meeting 2 weeks.
Yes.
So would that be at the same time, like 6?
Is it 7?
Is it 7 on Sunday? Okay.
14.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Beautiful design.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, the owners are really excited to go.
I can imagine.
Thank you.
So we're amending zoning ordinance of the town of Copperton, Texas by amending chapter 14 zoning, article 14.01, general provisions, exhibit A, zoning ordinance, article 7, outdoor signs, section 7.102, sign permits, and 7.104, exemptions. I think one of the issues here is, as presented to us here, this talks about prohibiting signs in the right of way. This is very problematic in this town because our right of ways are bizarre. And they're very, in fact, most homeowners have no clue what the right of way is on their property. On some properties, I think, as you may know, the road went down middle on a property line, so each homeowner has half a road. The property line is running up the middle of the road. On other roads, they're like 10 feet from the edge of the pavement. Other roads, they're weird right of ways that are like, 20 feet wide in some places. So in my opinion, right of way is the wrong measurement here. So I'd be interested in the public input period and in our discussions to have some alternative thoughts of the best way to present this. Because I see there's really two issues for me on this. One is, I think, regardless of where relative to the roadway a sign is, it shouldn't be put in front of someone's house unless the homeowner of that, or the property owner approves that sign. In other words, you can't just go stick a sign like anywhere, regardless. The second thing is that we've got it's prohibited, we need to enforce it, it's the placement of signs on town property. Right. You can't put signs in front of the city hall out there in the town property. That's the critical part. And the third part is like, where do you put a sign relative to a road? Given we're we can't deal with the right of way standard. So my thought is, maybe we say you can't put it within 3 feet of the edge of the pavement, right? A setback of some kind. I talked to Chris Hartby, and he said, well, listen, the thing you really want to be careful with is intersections. You don't want to, don't have a sign that obscures the sight.
Especially not 25-foot sign.
That's right, that's right. And I guess that's the one thing that's really the big change here. That's only really the material change is not allowing 25-foot high signs. No 25-foot high signs. Only 80. So that is a critical change.
Have we had them in the past?
I don't think we've ever had a 25-foot sign. We may have had an 8.5 or 9-foot sign.
I think this ordinance was one like in a city around
Yes.
here, and it just
Turned
came
over.
over.
In the city that had
billboards
billboards
and.
And the
Exactly.
height,
Yeah.
right, 25 feet.
Right,
Right.
right, yeah, 3 stories tall.
You know, ordinance.
Yeah, who can afford that for elections?
It's like a billboard.
Yeah, so I think I don't think there's any argument that should be decreased from 25 to 8. That's straightforward.
We could even regulate 8.
Yeah, 8 feet seated kind of, and then you are, as I said earlier, you don't allow 8-foot high signs near intersections or something. So I think we have the ability among ourselves tonight to kind of come up with something reasonable. And I guess this goes to the council, or yes, it goes to council anyway. And so I suggest we just kind of come up with something we're all happy with, and the public here with us tonight is happy with, and go that way. So that opening comment being made, I'll open it for public input. Paula, Chase, you guys have any comments you want to make? What do you think? Paul has lived through the election sign fight. And I might back up also. One reason we want to clarify this is so that the town staff doesn't have to spend a lot of time trying to enforce this. So something that's clear, easy to enforce. In the past has been very confusing and unclear, and people have been sticking signs everywhere, and the staff is heavy. be cops. We don't want to do that. So Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I agree with Mitch about the setback. One of the issues we had last year was someone going around with tape measure, exactly measuring it, and it was 2 feet 7/8. We got our time or whatever. So, and the other question I would have was properties such as yours, Mark, or Mitt, or somebody that has Dale, when he's got, you know, the fence along, say, Orchard Hill. First, let me say, I do believe that there's sign pollution, you don't need 6 signs, you know, every 3 feet of the same person. But my point is, though, let's say you're going to Orchid Hill, and you've got the right of way, and you've got the little indention or the creek, and then you've got the area next to the L sign, or your property along there, which is your land. What constitutes right of way there? I mean, because technically some people go, well, you're on the outside of this fence. But it's still Dale's property. Is Dale's property all the way to Orchid Hill, or is his property and yours, is your prime example? How do we know?
Yeah, and yeah, that's the issue. I think technically mine goes up to like my fence plus 1 foot on one end and 3 feet on the other end, because it's at an angle. You know, people didn't survey these things terribly well. And then the rest of it, the 10 feet, is the town's. Not that they do anything to maintain it. But, you know, so that's why I think the right of way definition doesn't work terribly well. Because that leaves you 1 foot from my fence.
Well, it's not, nobody can tell.
Yeah, nobody can
It's not a-
tell.
It's not a visual
Yeah.
reference point.
And then what about, you know, I mean, it's just insanity and agree on both sides. Last year, you know, right at Woodland, in Shinnecock. I mean, and people had, you know, we put a sign in, I mean, it's.
Yeah, that's town owned.
Okay,
So
good.
that's,
All right, good.
we've got that.
If you add that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea because you don't know. And then you have signs there and you got everything. But the hardest part is the right of way. Because someone decides that we're in the right of way and picks our sign. We lost a lot of signs last year that way. But when you get 6 candidates with 200 signs, now we've got 4, and I think it's gonna be not quite as chaotic as it was last year. And I don't feel that vibe right now. But I would like for us all to know, because they know the signs are expensive. But the banners are one thing, because they can go on fence. And the large property owners will agree, please put a banner on that fence.
I think you're gonna have to come up with, listening to all this, something from the edge of the road. No, it had to be at least 5 feet back, because anything within 3 feet is gonna get mowed down,
right,
landscape plan, something.
right.
But a minimum of
That's
5
what I was
feet
thinking,
off the
setback,
road.
something like 6 feet back. It's
Yeah,
easy,
something
it's-
like that.
We just, you know, we all, I'm sure the other 2 candidates, obviously 3, 1 is here, and we just don't want to lose time. And we don't want to have a lot of chaos and, oh, you moved your sign this, that, and the other. It's not necessary. And poor Sheila was tortured last year. And I did 276 squats writing the word "for" on signs, which is great. I hope you got shape. You should have caught that. But, another issue that I see is that if the council has to approve it, now we're at March 14th. You know, the signs technically start coming up around March 1st. Or not March 1st, maybe this 1st or 2nd. So if the council has to approve the right of way, how do we proceed then?
Yes.
Well, that's on the 14th, so that's not that.
They can move them. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I think if we,
And I think there may be some risk, but I mean, if you come up with a recommendation tonight, it's the probability that they'll accept it, meaning you may act in good faith before it's formally accepted, but. I mean,
and also to override our rulings, the council has to have a supermajority, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you'd have to have a supermajority to say that we're wrong, but a majority can say we're right. So, I guess, maybe we compromise and say 5 feet from the edge of the pavement, and then people can put their sign 6 feet, so there's an equivalent about which is the edge of the pavement, because we got some roads that are kind of crumbling along the edges. Right? So even the edge of the pavement is not crystal clear.
Mhm.
But if we said something like 5 feet from the edge of the pavement, and the owner of the property that fronts on that must agree to have the sign on their property.
Because one issue we had last year, it was like where two roads would T, and it's like, oh, they just felt like it was a free for all. I'm
That's
just
why I
gonna-
think you need to set, I think you
That's
need
why they
to
need
set
to-
back at an intersection separate from just in general off of the road.
Because that would kill all the corners then.
And that was actually Chase's plan. Back there.
I just think it's a driving hazard. Particularly if it's
Totally.
7 footer.
So,
So what's the right, what,
10 feet from the, 10 feet from
Yeah, I
the
think 10 feet
intersection
in from an intersection is safe.
on either side.
All right, because you need to have room to go quick out. I mean, traffic's getting a lot worse.
How does that work though? Like, we've got a road that comes in here in the Woodlands, that tees into Woodland, going that, this one. So
So-
10 feet on which side? Back?
Yeah, if it's a T intersection,
Right.
what's on the north, on the
that
top of the
doesn't
T?
matter.
Yeah, because there's no
It's the
sign.
corners.
Yeah, it's where the corner actually is.
The corner is
the
the
flat
flat
area,
area,
not the top of the T, right?
Because there's no sign.
Where there's an intersection, so something like where there's an intersection of two roads, at the intersection, and feedback from the point of intersection of the two roads.
But how did that work, like the Scott's property, Scott's property at Birmingham and Chinchilla? Because if you
It
say five,
it couldn't be right on the corner, it'd have to be 10 feet down on either side.
couldn't be at the corner,
At the
you just
corner.
have to go either on Jernigan.
10 feet.
Jernigan or.
Right.
Yeah, which is-
Yeah, just something that clears the sidewalk. I mean,
Right.
we got hikers and dog walkers and bicyclists and things. What do you think?
I think it needs to be uniform.
That's a little tricky, because it's like, oh, the road is this far, so it's 10 feet from that, it's the whole T thing.
If they're all 5 feet, minimum 5 or 6 feet off the road, the edge of pavement,
Mhm.
then they're gonna be okay pretty much anywhere.
You think?
And we have a clause in here, if we think they're not, the policeman say, hey, you line of sight, man, we can use it.
Yeah, and I think they will, if it's a line of sight issue.
Okay.
Who determines that?
Please.
Or sure.
Sheriff, it's basically somebody calling you and complaining.
So what about like with the fire station where they put all this, like on that property, whose land is that? And is where on Coffee Road where there were, I don't know, 12 signs.
That's ESD, right?
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
But there are
yeah.
signs there now, like in and dying, there are signs, so that's free or.
Well, we don't regulate that area. so-
Yeah, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
they got to have their own rules for that.
If somebody though had an 8-foot sign, even if it was 5 feet off the corner, that's still gonna be.
I think eight's kind of tall still.
I don't think it
For an
In this,
intersection, I
in
think
this
it's no
community, I
problem.
think eight's pretty, yeah, definitely an intersection. In this community,
The little sign doesn't matter, but if somebody really does do a big one like that, right in the corner, that could be a problem.
Well, they go banners, and they usually do banners on.
Well, banners have to be on the fence.
An 8-foot sign.
No.
Well, you wouldn't do a banner 8 feet high, it might be 8 feet long, but it would be,
Yeah.
But technically, you could have a traffic hazard if it's this tall.
If somebody really did do it.
Yeah.
The banners are usually 4 by.
Yeah.
And, vinyl. Not paper.
Well, I certainly have no problem making it 6 instead of 8.
yeah, I definitely.
Right? Let's make it 6 instead of 8.
I think that works for me.
Okay, so we're working so far 6 feet instead of 8, and 5 feet back
From
from
5 feet from pavement.
pavement.
And when you say 6, you mean height.
Right.
Hi.
Okay.
And yeah, 5 feet penetration, but with homeowner of,
Right. So that's the other is where you can put it.
Yeah.
So definitely not on city property, and it has to have homeowner permission.
And also you were talking about, like I think it limited to, 2 signs for each line of frontage, which I agree. But so a larger property, let's say,
It just has to be distance, not
Okay,
Right, because I mean, because you have some huge properties that,
exactly, so that's fine, so like if you put one at Dale's property at Abbott, on around the corner again. I just wanna make sure, because our signs disappear, if someone takes your sign down, they don't bring it back. They end up.
You don't even know who they
This is
are.
not a
yeah.
federal offense. I think it's
Well,
legal.
yeah, but if you have cameras or if you can't, I mean, we lost a lot of signs like that last year. And they probably did it wrong. I mean, you know, everybody has a story, but I just wanna make sure, and I don't think they had, I need to have 6 signs that say Chase Woodward or CL in my yard. I mean, if we're gonna redo the ordinance and spend all that time, I think it's a good idea that y'all are working on this because hopefully it's.
So when we say no town property, that means that election day, you're not gonna have 200 signs
Right,
on the yard.
well, not here or down on
Right.
Chin Chapel and Blue.
Yeah, I think people could put them on across the street if they're.
Because you notice all of them behind the village.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's all, you know,
A little trip your way.
yeah. You couldn't see the grass at all or something.
In name, all in name. What about if you had like a meet and greet? Could you, because I know last year that was the question.
If
you had
you're
a meet
using
and
the
greet,
building just for meet and greet on the weekend, you can do whatever you want. But the signs have to come up when you
Right,
leave, like
yeah.
last year,
we just didn't do that.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be an event sign, that
one
would
group
be a
did have a couple of signs up.
election sign.
One thing brings up another.
That's
So is
what I'm
there-
saying, and you know.
By stipulating election
Political, that's political stuff.
versus political, but you could still put up then a banner and leave it all year that just says, you know,
America first.
right, or I love Chase, and it never comes down, so.
Well, technically, those would fall under, that's a business sign or something. Well,
And those are less regulated because of freedom of speech.
right, yeah.
That's why we kind of put this under election.
Like the front sign on here.
Or a flag.
Oh, they're still up,
Yeah, yeah,
they're
flags,
still up,
flags are
they're still up.
not signs.
I mean, I just think it's good that we simplify the process, and that's what y'all are trying to do, which I appreciate, because. And then you get the state regulation.
Well, to Paula's point, it's limited to 2 signs for each line of frontage of the lot.
limited to 32.
Square feet,
That's,
that's,
that's the signage.
That's the signage.
That's not distance or.
I don't know whether that's, it's a per face, 30 feet per face, so you can't, the sign itself is 32.
Well, let's narrow it down to what section are you looking at?
I'm looking at 6,
Okay,
yeah, 7-104. Yes,
Mitch, will you
B6.
just seriously explain that to me, because I don't.
So the way I read the words, it's 32 square feet, that's the actual square footage of the sign itself.
Okay.
That's
so-
right.
8 foot by 4 foot. All right, yeah, 8 foot by 4 foot.
Or in our case.
But not distance between the signs, which is what we were starting to talk about.
Yeah.
Talking about the size of the lot.
Yeah, and I think we probably need something more specific, something limited to 2 signs for each line of frontage lot, for each one use per 100 feet.
That's where I was going, because otherwise it's 2, whether it's a 10-acre frontage or half of an acre.
Yeah.
So if you had 3 candidates that were running together and you
Yeah.
had 3 separate signs, you couldn't do that?
How would you do that, like if you had Rudy and Chase or Catherine and.
For Canada.
Yeah, or per candidate.
for Canada.
Per
Okay.
candidate,
Yeah,
That'd be reasonable.
yeah,
Yeah.
per candidate, per,
right, because you could be supporting several different people.
right. And hopefully you are,
And per 100 feet, what'd y'all add? What
per
was that?
100 feet of property frontage.
That's a good catch.
Paula? Hopefully that clears that one up. So,
So that we're saying, are we saying that if this reference here to 2 per,
2 signs,
that goes away?
oh, we just
Well,
leave
per
it,
candidate,
It says
signs per candidate.
limited to 2 signs for each line of frontage of the lot, for each permitted use. You need to insert per candidate per 100 feet of property frontage. So you can have 2 signs
That's
for
what
each candidate per 100 feet, but you can have 5 candidates.
If you had a homeowner that hadn't decided and didn't want to play favorites, technically you could all four.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then do we keep this? So there's also this reference here to the size.
Yeah, 32, I don't really care about. That's,
If that's 4 by
I mean, we
6.
just, if we're gonna limit it to 6 feet height anyway. So,
I've never seen this one.
yeah, nobody's gonna have a 32 square foot sign. Particularly if you're limiting that, we're changing the next
Yeah,
phrase.
because that was pertinent when we were talking about a 25-foot high sign.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, so
what-
now we're limiting that to 6 feet from 25 down to 6.
And that's why you make the square feet should be adjusted. So the sign of itself.
Well, you can tell you that a really long sign that's 6 feet high and
It's a small billboard.
but it at least be low and long, right? But it's still gotta be back. We said 5 feet from the edge of the
That's
pavement.
what I'm just trying to step through.
So you have to put it at an angle. If there's a fence.
What are they trying to get at with 32 square feet per face?
The size of the physical dimensions of the sign.
Of all the signs together?
No,
No,
just
just
per
per
sign.
sign.
Per sign.
That says per
Remember,
sign.
this is with the, this is the current, where you have a sign 25 feet high.
It'd be like a 5 by 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
See,
figure out.
he also
Sounds like a
mentioned,
mini billboard.
I think in other cities, you might, the sign itself might not be 25 feet high, but it's lifted up that.
Oh,
So it's not necessarily from the
It's
ground.
like a billboard.
Yeah, exactly.
so that's from the
It's
ground,
not gonna happen.
if it's on stakes.
The reason we changed.
We can't do
I
elimination.
still think it.
I'm pretty sure that's already in here.
It is.
So we're gonna disregard the right of way sort of, and just say that the setback, which is a great word, is 5 feet
5 feet from the edge
from
of
the
pavement.
pavement.
5 feet,
Edge of pavement.
yeah, and it's
With
Say
homeowners agree.
from the street or road instead of pavement, because what if it's a collision road?
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
But you wouldn't have town right of ways on Felicia Road.
Well, again, so we can't use the word right away at all, because right away is just a meaningless.
Jody has it.
Why can't you do 12 feet from the center line of the road?
Because people be out there.
They're gonna do it in,
Well, we don't need them in the middle of the road, measure.
So wait a second. If somebody's fence is 8 feet off the road and somebody wants to put a banner on the fence.
No, you can put banners.
You can put a banner on here, you just can't
Banners.
stick something in the
Okay.
ditch. So like Mark, in your property, how far is your fence off?
It's 11 feet on one end and 14 feet on the other.
Okay. So you're still good with this?
Yeah.
5 feet.
what about Dale's?
How far off is it?
I don't know.
His is different, all the way around.
He's at least 8 feet,
Yeah.
Jody.
probably 10 to 12 feet. Yeah.
Mhm.
Dale's at least 8, if not more.
I think most are.
Yeah.
Right, just with the ditch. and they got a-
It
I've
really
walked our
only
dog
comes
along
to
that
find
fence.
when you have
No.
to- that's like the property.
You
Well,
walk on
if
30
you
feet.
should that close to the road that you put on the fence.
So I'm glad they
it
talked
really
about
is-
last week.
Should be.
You just put it next to it, not in-
No, more on the fence.
unless you're driving this way and you.
Yeah, that's the problem with banners. You know,
Yeah.
If you're driving,
Orientation's wrong.
you want something that faces the direction of traffic for both purposes. Banners are
But if
great.
you're going 30, then you can.
Yeah, if you're doing 25 like you want to. Okay,
So,
where are we?
so let's start with, in the beginning and call out the sections you want changed. Make sure we get them in the minutes.
Okay, so B6, you want to change the word political to election. Any objection to that? Okay, so we'll change the word political to election in 6. That's one.
Well, do you want to go to the first section, it's on your town-owned property?
Yes. Yeah, I think, yes, definitely.
So 7-102, we've are in alignment with doing what's proposed in there.
Right. Town prohibited signs on town-owned property.
Right.
And that's signs, period. That's doesn't matter whether they're political or otherwise.
And 104B, we agree, change it to election.
Right. So then, the next one there, number 6. Is,
I have to get a little more time.
okay, so yes, so, 15-5, that's fine. Shall be limited, that's the phrase we're going to, 2 signs for each line of frontage of the lot, for each, say, take out permitted use, say for each candidate for 100 feet of property frontage, lot frontage.
Property and lot frontage.
Or just lot frontage. The sentence uses the frontage of the lot already, so it keeps the lot frontage.
So technically what that means is if you have the large frontage today, you're prohibited, you can only put 2 signs out. Right?
Today,
In the
yes.
current. This will allow you to put more on a larger lot.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm just trying to think about what it does, right? Yeah. More per candidate than it does on the current. So you'll have a little more sign pollution potentially because you've got those longer ones. But at least you're capping, so you're expanding it, but you're capping.
Yes.
How much you can do.
I think that's, yeah.
That wasn't even enforced last election.
Yeah, that was the problem, is to,
Yeah.
the ones.
Did you?
Yeah, so you're talking about having permission from the landowner. Yeah, I remember in your case, you're back off the road, so you technically, the guy in front of you could deny it, and there, or nobody could put a sign.
Hey, in my case,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you wouldn't have the right to put a sign out.
well, in my case, I own the property right up to the,
Okay,
so then the road, there's a guy behind me,
The guy behind you.
the guy behind me, too bad, he doesn't have road, well, he could put
You can
it,
put it in a jar, just.
he can put it in his yard and just be way the hell
You can
off.
see
Yeah,
it.
private
Right. Right, yeah.
Because your property is frontage.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And again, to make an old point is, I own Meadow Lake Drive, it's my damn road. Okay. So, yes, I think that's the point, is that whoever has the property adjacent where the sign is gonna be,
Mhm.
and so it looks like they're supporting that candidate, they need to give their approval. And stick signs on front of anybody's property.
Like when you come from 2499, turn west on to, that little area there, that's public land.
That's public, that, I think that's owned by the county or the town, one of the two.
Well, and Highland Village owns that strip right
Right.
there, that you
Right.
turn in,
Yeah, good there.
so it's not ours.
So, but on the other side of that private road is.
Right, so
Yeah,
you would need the
Bishop-
bishops.
well, Highland Village owns the strip between the bishops and 2499.
Yeah. That's correct. But I was saying, once you turn.
So, to be blunt about it, if someone wants to put a sign there, that's up to Highland Village, if they want to complain about it, too bad. Not our problem,
Yeah,
We can't do.
not our property,
we just need to know that because we don't want our signs to, disappear or somebody goes, well, that's Highland Village, because there will be people out there, maybe people do that I'm.
Yeah, or you could
Or
ask
she will
Highland,
get a call that says, Paula putting Rudy signs there and then.
to me, that's a Highland Village question, whatever their rules are here.
I just wanted to be sure that we're in compliance because it's very time intensive and it sounds like it's not, but it is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's expensive for leasing and women to print the signs and, we do a lot of calculation on that. It just doesn't need to be as complicated as it was last
Yeah.
year. And hopefully next year, if we have 6 candidates or whatever, then we won't have that problem. I think 4 will be a little bit more manageable this year.
Yeah, before we change ordinance, we should be prepared if we're gonna have a high turnout again. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we should make a rule that's a general principle
Yeah.
that applies, whether there's 1 or 7,
Right.
who knows, we have 12 next time.
Exactly, that's
No.
what I'm saying. You're right.
So, yeah, so there's that little portion right there, just right off 2499, that town and village, whatever their rules are, that's what applies. If somebody wants to plot them and plow them, we can't do anything about it.
And they'll probably get picked up.
And they'll probably
They're
get
bigger
pulled up.
cities.
Yeah. But then on the other side of Bishop Road, heading west, that's the Bishop's land, and then there's Janice Jennings' land, and there's my land, and there's, other people's land. So there's a long stretch there, and if people want to put signs on it, you just need to talk to the homeowners.
Not in the right of way, right? We own the right of way.
Yeah, but we're changing basically.
They're changing it to 5 feet off the pavement.
No, I'm sorry, the roundabout. Sorry.
The roundabout is city.
Oh, yeah, there won't be anything around that.
City.
Now, where does the city own around the roundabout?
They own the roundabout.
They own the roundabout, but 10 feet back from it?
No, we own the whole
The
thing.
whole thing.
Well, I know you own the whole 10 rounds.
He's getting to.
Nobody's gonna put signs in the roundabout.
They did.
They put them in the center.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, in the center, yeah, that's the town, too
And
bad.
that is an obstruction.
That is.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good reason why we say no town.
No town.
What about like for Rolling Acres and stuff, or what did you think last year? There, is that private land, where their signs are right there, if you're going west on Rolling Acres, turning from Chapel, because they have the pretty brick walls. Chapel North,
Well, we can call them pretty brick walls. They have brick walls.
I'm trying to be,
Fine, be polite, I understand.
but I'm just saying, is that, do we own that, does the town own it, or is that the homeowner behind it?
Okay, when we redo a road, we go in there and 10 feet is right of way. I know you don't like it pertains to this, but it's right of way.
Okay.
But normally it's that person's property up to the road. We just have a right of way for utilities and all of that, so.
Think of it as the easement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, where the, where
Oh,
the
yeah.
wall.
Mhm.
So that's off limits.
It's somebody's property.
Okay.
So based on,
Unless
so,
they say.
so if we just try to apply this, right, so based on what you're asking, if somebody's property, if they're, so signs can go in 5 feet from the road,
Yeah.
5 feet from the road, would that
They
be
want
the
property
property
on
owner,
wide the road.
even if it's in the
The
road?
town can do it.
Yeah.
It's also got.
It's not like.
So it could be in front of that ring road with that homeowner.
I'm
It's-
just,
it's a
you want to be
nature,
respectful of the homeowner behind you.
Yeah, we said it was
Total stuff. Totally.
I don't think we have.
They had 2 pieces of property, they just ran around, 5 feet long, each property. The people own the middle of the road. And the road's like 2 people's property.
I mean, this is much
That's close to
easier
it,
to do.
much
It's
closer.
not easy to
Isn't it like?
Be a lot easier to
Because it's
figure
like-
this out with these three
Yeah,
than
I think that's another side of it.
Charleston was 15 feet.
From the center line.
Because they're concerned about emergency vehicles on the beach.
Okay, where were we? So, then, the last thing is, I guess, I don't feel upset by the 32 square feet. We could change it if you want, but, I mean, it's okay. Limited to a maximum height, we had suggested 6. Jeff, you thought 8 was still more appropriate, or?
No, I like 6.
6, okay, 6. It shall not blink. Or
Yeah,
flash.
and then that, okay, that's just.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think 32 is big, only because it's somewhat proportional to what the current is. If you're gonna go to 6,
If you have 5 by 6 sign.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it should come down somewhat relative, to that, just keep it balanced.
Well, 30, that's 5 by 6.
Well, 6 by 4 would be 24.
That's where we go.
Okay, I'll let
So
24.
24,
24.
We save any money.
6 by 4.
Right, 24.
Because you'd be like Santa Barbara,
So,
California.
We're not putting
Question for our resident sign expert, so is 4 by 6 standard size?
I think that's what we had last time.
It seems like,
Yeah.
Looks like a band.
so it would be logical to stay with whatever standard.
Yes, call it 24.
okay.
Okay,
All right. You can't have some 30-foot long.
Yes.
Oh, it's one sign.
Some of these candidates just want to spend their money on signs.
All right, do we have any other changes we want to make on this? All right, the question is, Sheila and Donnie, you got it, or do you want us to repeat it? Okay. Any other, items come before us? No.
We have to vote on it.
Do we need to what?
Do we officially need to define what right away means at some point?
I think I'll leave that to our town council. The problem is that it's, again, there's too many possible.
I understand.
It's actually defined in a lot of other places.
Is it?
Design standards, subregs, all of that.
Yep.
Just this sign thing is, because you're a rural town.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to.
Yeah. Someday we will need to. Probably not when we're on this commission.
So you can make a motion. Somebody does.
Yes, I would entertain a motion to make the changes we recommend.
I'll make a motion to entertain the changes we've just discussed that the town secretary and manager have duly noted on their documents over there.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Unanimous. And since we didn't really have any public input, I didn't need to open or close it. That's right, she.
You didn't take your first reading.
Thank y'all.
Okay, meeting stands adjourned. Thank you guys. And once again, we've not met the mysterious Greg Gordon.
We're being.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you're